Here I've got a cluster from one of the local car lots, and they're saying that the airbag light isn't coming on. So the first thing I usually do is kind of take a look to see if there's been any signs of someone in there dinking around. It does have some of the common signs. This clip has been overextended and sticking out, and there is a nice big greasy fingerprint. Let's see if I can get that on the camera. Nice big fingerprint under the lens on top of this display area. And then over here too, there's some greasy finger marks. So someone's been in there, and they disabled the airbag light. So what? Well, first let me just power it up and make sure that it really doesn't have a airbag light. We'll let it run the little self dummy light test. Should be in this area here if it's working, right where that greasy thumbprint is. Here's a pro tip: if you're going to take a cluster apart, at least wash your hands. Okay, yep, we got ABS battery, no sign of the airbag light. So let's just open it up and see if this was a nice dishonest person or a bad dishonest person. Because I see this all too often where people disable their check engine light or ABS lights because, of course they don't want to spend. Oh, another thing here. Even before I rip the needles off, another sign that someone's been dinking around is the calibration is all kind of wonky. Gas gauge is supposed to be a needle with below the E. None of the gauges are really lining up right. Just another common thing I see when people are in there dinking around and not really sure what they're doing. They're kind of sloppy putting the needles back on. So like I was saying, I see this too often with people disabling the warning lights. And you have your nice people, and you have your not so nice people. So here, now luckily, the LED is still there. I've seen sometimes they'll just take a pliers and break it off, or they'll take a screwdriver and just jam the warning lights off. But this guy was actually nice. Well, since the LED is still there and it's not damaged, it's probably been covered up through the face. I see a dark spot. Let me just get this off of here without touching it. Yeah, so there you have it, just a piece of tape on the face. So at least that was a decent dishonest person and just use a piece of electrical tape instead of busting the LED off. But well, that was a pretty easy fix. I can pop this. Come on. What am I doing here? Oh, it helps if you put the board in all the way. Pop this back on. We'll just run a quick test. And now we should see airbag light come on. And there it is. Okay. So now I'm just going to try to give this a wipe down here, get some of the fingerprints off. I'm going to reset the needles and give it one more final check over. Here it is, cleaned up, and a little bit tighter calibration than what it was before. So now the needles should, so now they're not all wonky anymore. And we should have, yep, there's the airbag light. So we're working, yep, got some of the fingerprints cleaned off, and yeah. It's ready to go back to the customer. Now with this cluster, this came from a local mechanic, and this is another dummy light problem cluster. The mechanic is claiming that they're getting an intermittent brake light. This is out of a 2008 Impala. My bench testing shows that it's okay. This car has a dedicated wire for the brake light. It's this tan with a white stripe. When the wire floats, when you have nothing connected to it, you're going to see 4.7 volts. That when the circuit's open, that tells the brake light to turn off. When there's an issue and the wire gets grounded, that's what the float in the reservoir, the switch, will ground when it's out of fluid. Let me just see if I can get this wire to hook on ground. Now when it grounds, it waits about 20 seconds and then your brake light will come on. And I'll just wait for it. Come on. There. So there's a brake light. Did what it's supposed to do, it came on. And then if I let this wire open and float again, after another 20 seconds it will turn off. And there it's off. So usually what I do in cases like this, I've already had this apart. I'll do a visual inspection, but when people say they're getting intermittent problems, sometimes just putting a little bit of flex on the board will make your bad solder joints show up. In this case, I've already put a little pressure on it, flexed it. I'm not getting the intermittency that they're claiming that they're getting. So I think this is a case where they're blaming the cluster when the problem probably isn't the cluster at all. If his switch is failing, or if if his wire is getting pinched to the chassis ground, that will also make the light go off. So this is just a case where I just have to go with a gut feeling that it's not the cluster at all. I did back trace, did a little bit of reverse engineering. This dedicated brake wire comes through one of these pins here, passes under a resistor, passes to a resistor and a diode. One end of the diode is tied to, I think it's either tied to ground or the +5. I don't remember exactly. But the problem is the LED driver is hidden underneath this display, and I really don't want to pull that display off to get to the driver chip, which I don't think there's a problem with it. Again, I gave it the normal little stress test. I'm not getting the intermittency they're getting. I think this is just a case where the mechanic has to dig into the car a little bit deeper. Well, I'm going to throw this one back together and give it back to him. Tell him to double check the wiring again. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.